Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me for another Minute with Dr. M. I have been experiencing something during this quarantine, and I wonder if you all have experienced it as well. And that is, in the evenings, I am absolutely exhausted, even though really the only thing I've done is stare at screens all day. There is no way we can get away from screens during this time. We need them for education, we need them to work, and we need them to socialize with each other. But they take their toll. And we know that increased screen time leads to more negative mood changes and also exhaustion. So here's a couple of things to keep in mind as we're dealing with screens and perhaps how to manage them. Not all screen time is the same. We know that increased media use is related to higher levels of negativity and anxiety, but social media use even more so. And that's because social media contains an element called social contagion. Our emotions are more likely to be triggered by the same news item on social media than it is on regular media, mostly because of how it's written. We also know there's a difference between passive social media use and active social media use. So passive social media use is just scrolling, when you're just looking at your phone or your device and you're just looking at things, just scrolling. But active media use is when you post things, when you engage with other people, when you comment on posts. And research has found pretty conclusively that active media use is associated with much lower levels of negative feelings, much lower levels of loneliness. So if you're going to use social media, that's really the way to go. So why are we so drawn to social media? Why are we so drawn to pick up our devices so much? And the answer is in the brain and the response to the brain. When we get on social media, we get reinforced, and that means we get something positive from it or something negative is taken away. So we get some good feelings, we get some affirmation, or perhaps our anxiety and boredom is taken away. And the dopamine releasing system in the brain is triggered, which is what floods our brain with these positive feelings. Social media is certainly a great tool when we're trying to increase our connections with others and reduce our social isolation, which we're certainly trying to do now. But we have to be careful because there's a lot of misinformation and sensationalism present in social media. You know, we have evolved as human beings to pay attention to bad news first. It's added to our survival. And unfortunately, that's really what the media is about. And when we see a negative piece of news, we also are kind of mentally lazy as human beings. We take shortcuts. So rather than do the hard work of trying to figure out whether a news item is real or reliable or not, we tend to just quickly conclude that it is. And then that can lead to some negative feelings. So here's a few things to keep in mind. When you find yourself reaching for your screen or drawn to your screen, what's going through your mind? What are you hoping to accomplish through that? How are you hoping to feel after you're done with that media time? Are you hoping to feel less bored or less anxious or relief or happiness? And then look at whether that time on the screen really did give you that feeling that you were hoping for. So here's a couple of tips. The first one is to try and either limit or eliminate screen time right before bed. If you have to look at a screen, it's much better to watch a TV show, watch some kind of a show rather than start scrolling. If you're looking to reduce anxiety or connect to someone, it's better to pick up the phone and call and actually talk to someone rather than to rely on online connections. I realize to some extent that's all we have, but that in-person voice is really much better. So those are just a couple of things to keep in mind and hopefully will help you manage your screen use a little bit better.